Good Monday morning. Let's take a look at what we've lined up for you on today's show.
Today, Dr. Dan Thompson guest will be Dr. Beth Davis, an associate professor in K-State's Department of Clinical Sciences and a board-certified internal medicine specialist for large animals at the Veterinary Health Center at Kansas State. They'll be discussing equine vaccination programs and why you should vaccinate your horses. Learn about core-based and risk-based vaccines, plus when to administer them. Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff Progress, powered by Kansas farmers. Ag AM in Kansas is brought to you in part by Kansas Pork Association, assisting producers and informing consumers.
Hi there and welcome to Doc Talk. Dr. Davis, thanks for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
For those of you who haven't met Dr. Davis, Dr. Beth Davis is an associate professor here in the Department of Clinical Sciences, and she's a boarded internal medicine specialist for large animals, and specifically you work with horses here at the Veterinary Health Center at Kansas State University. But it's always great to have you on the show, great to talk about horses, and today we're going to talk about vaccinations.
Perfect. That sounds like a great idea.
All right. Well, let's start out with the big question is, you know, should I vaccinate my horses? Why should I vaccinate my horses?
Yeah, great question. And, you know, that is an issue that comes up is, do we really need to vaccinate our horses? And when we're looking at preventative health and keeping our horses healthy and trying to avoid complications and sometimes pretty serious complications of infectious disease, vaccines are going to be the core way that we are going to protect those horses.
And so, you know, when, you know, and I've sure you get those questions.
Absolutely.
And people are you have the two camps, the one that want to vaccinate for everything under the moon, and the others that need to figure out they need to get them involved. So when we're talking about different types of vaccines, how do we break those down or classify them?
Right. So according to the American Association of Equine Practitioners, we have two categories of vaccines. We have those core vaccines, and then we have risk-based vaccines. And the core vaccines are really intended to protect against those very serious pathogens that could cause very serious disease, even disease that could kill our horses. And so those diseases are going to be things like the encephalitis viruses, Eastern, Western, West Nile encephalomyelitis viruses, tetanus, and rabies. Those are going to be really important.
So the core vaccines are really the vaccines that are, you know, regardless of where you live, regardless of the production status of the horse, these are the ones that, you know, you really got to get done. Regardless. Absolutely.
And and so something like rabies, it's really important for the horse, but it's really important for the people working around that horse as well.
Yeah, it can be issues not only with your companion animal or large animal, but also something that human beings can contract. So when we start to think about the core-based vaccines, you know, there are 4 or 5 that you're recommending. Is there a time of the year in which you recommend that you give those?
Right. So those are going to be vaccines that are started when the horse is young, and usually with an initial series of 2 to 3 vaccines, depending on how old the horse is. If it's the first year of life, series of 3 vaccines, and then an annual booster, and that booster is often going to be given in the springtime months. You know, it needs to happen at least once a year, though, to keep them healthy.
Perfect. It's a great discussion on equine vaccines. When we come back after the break, we're going to have more discussion with Dr. Davis on the equine vaccines. You're watching Doc Talk, and we're sure glad you joined us.
Ag AM in Kansas is brought to you in part by Sure Crop, liquid crop nutrition delivered right to your farm.
The Kansas State University College of Veterinary Medicine is a leader in food animal research and education. Our researchers are constantly expanding the knowledge of animal health and food safety. Through the Veterinary Health Center and the Kansas State Veterinary Diagnostic Lab, we provide practical services for animal producers. Home of the Beef Cattle Institute, the college is committed to animal welfare training and research. The Kansas State University College of Veterinary Medicine, knowledge and service for the future of animal production.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
This hog is head over hoof for meal made from U.S. soybeans. Now, one hog isn't that impressive, but suppose we add another, and another, and another. Before long, you've got billions of hungry customers around the world all clamoring for the same thing. Our soybeans. Learn more about the billion-dollar appetite of animal agriculture at BeyondTheElevator.com. Brought to you by America's soybean farmers and their checkoff.
Ag AM in Kansas is brought to you in part by Purple Wave Auction. Straight, simple, sold.
Now another gardening tip with Annette Jackson.
For the greenest, healthiest, weed-free lawn in your neighborhood, the Fertilome Lawn Care program is the best. Fertilome Lawn Care products provide your lawn with the exact ingredients for proper fertilization and weed prevention. Jackson's friendly staff will call you to let you know when to apply the next step. We can also do it for you, so call or stop in now.
The Fertilome Lawn Care program is still available at last year's prices, but hurry, time is limited.
Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information. This segment is brought to you by Santa Fe Trail Meats in Overbrook. Stop by or visit us at sftmeats.com.
Hi there and welcome back to Doc Talk. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson here from the College of Veterinary Medicine at Kansas State University, and I'm joined by Dr. Beth Davis, who is a boarded internal medicine specialist for large animals, and she's an associate professor here in the Department of Clinical Sciences at Kansas State University, and we're talking about vaccinating your horses.
Yeah.
We've established the fact that we need to. We've established the fact that we have core vaccine strategies for all horses, and now we're going to talk about risk-based vaccines. Why do they call them risk-based?
Right. So risk-based vaccines are going to be really important for diseases that the horse may develop depending on their environmental conditions.
Okay.
And so any horse owner is going to work really closely with their veterinarian to make specific vaccine decisions. But these risk-based vaccines are targeted towards things like respiratory disease. So those viruses like influenza virus, equine herpes virus that cause respiratory disease. There's a variety of vaccines to choose from out there and different types of vaccines. Some are going to be in the muscle, some are going to be intranasal. And again, working with your veterinarian, owners can make those decisions, but it's going to protect against those diseases that might be encountered by the horse.
Some of those intranasals can be a little bit of a test to deliver sometimes.
That's right. They can be a little tricky. Yep.
When we're talking about, can we get into maybe some of these specific risk-based vaccines as far as maybe the more popular ones and why we do some of those?
Right, absolutely. And so influenza is a virus that is in the horse population. It is everywhere.
Highly contagious.
Highly contagious. It's going to spread through a barn of susceptible horses if they're not vaccinated. It's going to cause fever, coughing, nasal discharge. Horses aren't going to be able to go to the horse show or go and race. They're not going to be able to perform if they're sick with influenza. So it's important that they're vaccinated against influenza. Even though it may not threaten their life per se, it certainly is going to be highly contagious, spread through the barn, and performance limiting. Along those lines, another one is equine herpes virus.
Okay.
We have a couple different kinds of equine herpes viruses. Type 1 and type 4 are the ones we worry about in terms of horses developing respiratory disease. So it's really important that horses are well vaccinated against EHV 1 and 4 to protect against respiratory disease. EHV1 can cause problems in pregnant brood mares, and so we can have problems with abortion. So in pregnant mares, it's important that they are properly vaccinated against EHV1.
Wow. Now, can you give that vaccination to them while they're pregnant, or is this something that
Right, right. So good question. Again, it's something that the owner's going to work with the veterinarian on. But yes, those mares, those pregnant mares, do need to be vaccinated throughout pregnancy so that we can maintain a high level of immunity against that virus and we don't have problems with abortion and even abortion storms. Another important bacterial disease that can cause respiratory disease that would fall into the category of risk-based vaccines is the one that protects against strangles or Streptococcus equi. That is one that causes pretty serious disease, but only in certain populations of horses. And so that's one we really do reserve for horses that are only at risk for getting exposed.
I think it's a great discussion. We're going to come back after the break and continue our discussion on equine vaccines.
We've been using Multimin for about 7 years. It's one of the most multi-use products that we have here on the farm. Bulls, cows, calves, weaning age cattle, just about everything on the place. If they go through the chute, they get a shot of it. The primary use that we started Multimin was in our donor program, in our embryo transplant program. I'd recommend Multimin to any producer in the cattle business. Here at Deer Valley, every animal that goes through the chute gets a dose of Multimin.
Dr. Dan here. Whether I'm driving up and down the roads covering the state of Kansas or I'm getting between Riley and Manhattan for my job, I'm driving a Ford truck. I'd like you to come out and visit my friends here at Dick Edwards Ford. They have a truck that'll suit your needs, whether you're looking for power with a Power Stroke diesel or if you're looking for fuel efficiency with the new EcoBoost engine, they got a truck that's just right for you. They're located 2 miles east of the Town Center Mall in Manhattan, Kansas, and they'll bend over backwards to help you. And I'll see you down the road.
Get ready for the Kicker Country Stampede presented by Verizon Wireless, starring Jason Aldean, Trace Atkins. 4 days of camping and country music at Country Stampede, Little Big Town. The Pistol Annies featuring Ashley Monroe, Miranda Lambert, and Angelina Presley. Country Stampede. Take advantage of our current pricing. Advanced pricing for a 4-day ticket is $135. Prices go up June 26. More info at countrystampede.com.
Purple Wave is a proud supporter of the Kansas FFA through the Bid for Blue program. Purple Wave donates a portion of the proceeds earned on certain ag assets to the Kansas FFA. Winning bidders can designate a Kansas chapter to receive the donation. To date, Purple Wave is proud to have donated over $10,000. Visit purplewave.com to learn more and to place bids on Bid for Blue assets. Purple Wave Auction. Straight, simple, sold.
Roy Fry Western Lifestyles brings the cowboy or cowgirl out in all of us. With a huge selection of must-have items, it doesn't matter if you're shopping for your horse, picking up some Western accessories to add that rustic charm to your home, or simply treating yourself. The knowledge and expertise to dress you your Western best is right here at Roy Fry Western Lifestyles, Highway 24 and Kansas Avenue in Topeka.
American innovation is being driven in places you might not expect by people like Brent Hayek, an Oklahoma family farmer, who recently set a world land speed record in a Ford Super Duty pickup truck powered by renewable B20 biodiesel. Advanced performance is here, now, putting America on the fast track to more jobs and energy independence. Biodiesel, America's advanced biofuel.
This segment is brought to you by Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego, just a short drive down the Yellow Brick Road.
Hi there and welcome back to Doc Talk. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson from the College of Veterinary Medicine at Kansas State University, and I'm joined by Dr. Beth Davis, who is a boarded internal medicine specialist for large animals and an associate professor in the Department of Clinical Sciences here at the College of Veterinary Medicine at Kansas State University. And Beth, you see a lot of horses coming in through our clinics, whether it's for referral from all over the United States or our local horses that use us as a local practice. Y'all are to be commended for the level of care that you give to a lot of horses, and it's great to have you on here. We're talking about vaccinations, and as we had discussed kind of before the show, you know, sometimes there can be downsides to vaccines, and people need to be aware of some of the things that those can be.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's an important point. Certainly there's not anything we administer to our animals that couldn't potentially cause a problem or have a downside. And so that's one of the reasons it is important to work with a veterinarian on making vaccine decisions. But some of the things that we can run into as far as a potential downside, in the last segment we talked about risk-based vaccines. And one of the vaccines I talked about was the one that protects against strangles. And strangles is a really important infectious disease, and certainly we want to protect horses against it. But sometimes we can have problems with that vaccine where they could actually develop some lower limb swelling, a fever, and actually get a little bit sick from that vaccine, which can be pretty serious. And so sometimes there can be adverse reactions from vaccine administration. The other thing that we can sometimes run into is we have a lot of vaccines that we've talked about,
right,
and sometimes time is tight for everybody and we try to be efficient with our time, and sometimes we give a lot of vaccines at one time to horses. And so in some cases horses will get a swelling or a stiffness or have a little bit of a couple of days where they're a little bit off after vaccination. And so in those situations we do want to try to spread things out a little bit, again working with the veterinarian, but using a strategy that does kind of spread it out and maybe doing it over the course of weeks or months to complete that vaccine program.
So if I get the lower limb swelling and some of these things that could potentially happen, you know, I know I should probably have a veterinarian take a look at the horse,
right,
but what are some of the things that a veterinarian is going to be looking for or thinking about
right,
with getting my horse back to normal?
Right,
Is it
right.
just a time?
Well, it depends. It depends on the vaccine that was administered, and it depends on the kind of reaction that we're seeing. And so if it is a situation where a problem after, say, a strangles vaccine, that can be a pretty serious problem. And so they're going to be looking specifically for how the horse is doing and then giving specific anti-inflammatories to help reduce that reaction.
Get rid of the swelling.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I think it's important. I think that when we come back, we're going to take a break.
Okay.
But when we come back, maybe have a discussion on how we plan our vaccine programs out.
Okay,
during
that
the year.
sounds terrific.
Sure appreciate you joining us.
All right, well, thank you.
We appreciate you joining us too. We'll be back right after the break. You're watching Doc Talk, and we're sure glad you joined us.
Ag AM in Kansas is brought to you in part by Premier Farm and Home. Stop by or visit us at haycow.com.
This is the fast track to more jobs and America's energy independence. Advanced Performance is here now. Biodiesel, America's advanced biofuel.
Tar Waters has what you need for all seasons for around the farm and home. Working, hunting, growing, feeding, snow removal, even fun for the kids. And a service department with experienced techs to help keep your equipment in top running condition. Tar Waters has a huge selection and the best prices. Tar Water Farm and Home, family owned and operated since 1978. They have what you need. Ag AM in Kansas is brought to you in part by K-State Research and Extension. Knowledge for life.
With Ag AM in Kansas, I'm Devin Stewart. One of the speakers there, K-State beef veterinarian Larry Hollis, is advising pasture managers to be thinking through not only the water situation, which means both quantity and quality, but the potential for unwanted plant consumption by those grazing cattle as well.
What may have been diluted out in past years, and so that it's not harmful to animals, may be concentrating, in fact is concentrating, as these ponds draw down as the water sources go lower. And so we get into problems that it starts, again, hurting animal performance initially, but it can get to the point of being toxic to the animals and cause health problems or death losses. So we have to be aware.
With Ag AM in Kansas, I'm Devin Stewart.
Golf Week calls it the best course you can play in Kansas. But once you play, you'll want to stay. Go for it. Firekeeper Golf Course at Prairie Band Casino and Resort is just north of Topeka off Highway 75. Our stay and play package is worth the trip. Luxury hotel room, green fees, and golf cart for two, starting at just $169.
Prairie Band Casino and Resort. Go for it!
The Kansas State University College of Veterinary Medicine is a leader in food animal research and education. Our researchers are constantly expanding the knowledge of animal health and food safety. Through the Veterinary Health Center and the Kansas State Veterinary Diagnostic Lab, we provide practical services for animal producers. Home of the Beef Cattle Institute, the college is committed to animal welfare training and research. The Kansas State University College of Veterinary Medicine, knowledge and service for the future of animal production.
This segment is brought to you by Roy Fry Western Lifestyles, dressing Northeast Kansas their Western best for almost 60 years.
Hi there and welcome back to Doc Talk. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson here from the College of Veterinary Medicine at Kansas State University, and I'm joined by Dr. Beth Davis, who is a boarded internal medicine specialist for large animals and an associate professor in the Department of Clinical Sciences. And we talked during the break, you know, kind of that timeline. What for an adult horse, what are your thoughts? Of course, we recommend to work with their local veterinarian.
Right,
But
absolutely.
let's just talk in general terms what you kind of look at as a veterinarian.
Sure. So the way we look at it is going back to those core vaccines, and so protecting against disease that, number one, can be life-threatening and can be contracted through things like mosquito bites. And so when we have warm weather, we want to start up with those vaccines early in the year. So we're probably looking somewhere around March to start with those vaccines, so Eastern, Western, West Nile, tetanus, rabies. With our risk-based vaccines, and we talked about influenza and rhinopneumonitis, so respiratory diseases that horses can come in contact with, we're going to include that at that time as well. We're going to vaccinate against those. And that's going to allow that horse to have time to induce an immune response, be well protected when they are exposed to other horses at activities, at trail rides, at shows, those sorts of things, and then as well as be protected when they get those mosquito bites and potentially are exposed to those viruses.
It's absolutely amazing how many times a horse can be bitten
Absolutely.
by a mosquito in a day.
Yeah, exactly, and especially at night, and especially at night in very warm weather. We have a lot of problems with amplification of those viruses when we have real warm nights. And so that's another reason we want to make sure that they get the vaccines early enough that their immune system is really cranked up when they're staying outside 24/7 because the weather is beautiful and it's nice and warm, but they are getting those mosquito bites. And then when we get a little bit later in the year, so we get through our summer months and we're moving towards fall, then we want to go ahead and give them a boost for respiratory viruses because, again, through the winter months, they can get exposed and they can have problems. Some of those vaccines don't give them year-long protection, so we want to boost them again for flu, for rhino, again in the fall months.
So for a majority of them, it's going to be an annual booster in March, and then your flu and your rhino heading into that kind of flu season, even though they're horses. You know, we're going to be looking at a booster at 6 months.
Right, exactly. And depending on where they live, there's going to be modifications based on season and that sort of thing.
I get a lot of questions on the strangles and the rabies. Are those annual generally, or?
Well, the rabies is a once a year. It's a really good, potent vaccine, so that's a once a year, and we're doing that one in the spring. The strangles, again, in those individuals that need it, that is actually going to be a twice a year vaccine.
So as we're moving towards show season and things like that, probably need to booster them every 6 months.
Right, yep, absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Well, my pleasure, thank you.
You always do a great job, and really appreciate what you do for our students and for our clients.
Well, thank you very much.
And thank you for watching Doc Talk. It's been a great show today. If you want to know more about what Dr. Davis and I do here at the College of Veterinary Medicine, you can find us on the web at www.vet.ksu.edu. Remember, we encourage you to always work with your local practitioner, and thank you so much for watching the show. Again, I'm Dr. Dan Thompson here from the College of Veterinary Medicine at Kansas State University. You've been watching Doc Talk. We're sure glad you joined us, and we'll see y'all down the road.
Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff Progress, powered by Kansas farmers.